Good afternoon. My name is Igor Beschastny, and I represent the Bank VTB and the program interface, and I'm glad to welcome you at our session. Our session will be organized in the format of a roundtable where we will discuss the possibilities of export of Russian technologies, and for 2020 our export increased by 14%. It was 2.4 billion rubles in the mid of 2020, which is more than the volumes of export we had before. And we also need to note that all the other sectors are stagnating and are decreasing, even by more than 20%. So what technologies helped Russia to move and to develop this sector? What tools do we have for our development? We will discuss these questions with the participants in the studio and also with the participants who will take place, who will connect in a remote way. So we have today Alexander Borodich, Russian serial entrepreneur, VC investor and expert in innovations and blockchain technologies. Ilya Popov, chairman of board of directors from Riki Group of companies, will join us a little bit later. Vasily Ovchinnikov, counselor to the general director from the Russian Fund for the Development of Information Technologies, is with us today too. And Evgeny Kuznetsov will join us in a remote way. He is General Director from Orbita Capital Partners, and Sergei Gorkov, Chairman of Board of Directors from Rosgea company, is also with us. So I suggest we start from the mining sector. Sergei, please tell us how the development of digital infrastructure is being implemented in Rosgea and in similar companies, and what technologies, what digital platforms help you to tokenize the mines and the mineral resources, and what is the situation in Russia in this sector. Thank you very much for the possibility to take part in this forum, and this question is very interesting. So what Russia can export? It is very important to understand if we want to increase the volumes of non-raw materials export. We need to understand what we can export. And the question of services is the key one in this direction. Because at this stage we do not have a lot of things we can export in our machine building, but in the sector of services we have something to export. If we're talking about our digital developments and their promotion on the market, I think that Russia is a global leader with no doubt, and in geology too, because in 2020 we saw an increase by 60% in this sector, because we have a Russian geological school, which is the competitor to the Chinese, for example. Because in China such schools were organized by the USSR previously, and also in the US there are similar schools, but we can compete on our continent, and we even can be active leaders. Well, as for the digital sector, well, the notion of digital appeared not so long ago, but if we think about the development of computers, we need to think about two sectors. It is nuclear energy and military sector, and the second direction is geology. So these two sectors were in the beginning of the development of computer technologies. Why? Because it was the era of active oil production, and we needed to carry out a lot of seismic works, and that's why we needed a lot of models, and the development of this sphere helped to develop digital technologies and computer technologies. And now this trend is still visible, and the analysis of seismic data is a very important aspect for us. But there are two new parameters. It is, first of all, the possibility to use quantum calculations, because we're interested not in the existing form and in the processing of existing data, but we are interested in what we will have in 10 years' time. So that's why quantum calculations are very interesting here, and algorithms are the key elements here. So for us and for our global partners, this question is the key one. We also need to use supercomputers, because the volumes of information we have when we aggregate all the geological data is huge, and seamless processes are not possible to process even using big data. You know, we want now to analyze the whole Gulf region and its processes, and we have really huge volumes of information. And you are talking about a Russian computer. Yes, it is a Russian computer, and Saudi Arabia or other countries do not have such capacities. And we need not only the hardware, but also the intellectual resource, because the machine can process the data, but it is needed to present the information in the right way. And we use AI and big data to process geological information. I think that it is not a new thing, it is a standard trend. I would like just to highlight the trends that could be surprising for our colleagues, especially in such a complex and industrial sector as geology. The second trend we have is the combination of our production system with blockchain, because it is a very important thing. You know, geological processes are developed in different areas. It is not a plant, an ordinary plant, because we have very different processes, and we need to coordinate them to define our goals and tasks. So the combination of blockchain and our production system is what we are doing now. And it is not the question of one oil production installation. It is the question of hundreds of units of equipment, and in fact we are talking even about thousands of units of equipment. Another parameter we are calculating, and we are using, for example, other combined systems. Let's imagine what the space is. Space is vacuum and planets. What can we analyze on the moon? Can we analyze the fauna? No. Flora? No. Water? What can we analyze? We can search for natural resources, mineral resources. Yes, and mineral resources are geology. So if we're talking about the moon or Mars or about our ocean, you know, we have analyzed only 20% of our ocean, and our understanding is at the level of 10%. So this question of combination of several types of technologies is very important. We work with Roscosmos and with our partners who deal with ocean studies. And for example, if we want to organize different complex processes, for example, drilling at the depth of 6,000 meters, etc. And we manufacture unique robots, and we are now developing a new type of robots which will allow us to go down to 8,000 meters depth. And you understand that robots used on the surface of the Earth and robots used at the depth of 8 kilometers are very different ones, and the pressure is really different. And also the drilling installations we develop for the moon, for example, you understand that the conditions on the moon are quite different, and that's why we need to adopt a different approach to robotics. You know that the center that is functioning at our place, I'm talking about the combination of space technologies and other types of technologies. And from September, we will launch a very interesting unmanned machine, which is doing the photos using magnets, and we see a lot of potential for Africa, Asia, and other countries. The first commercial contract is forecasted to be concluded in September of this year. We developed this technology in 2020, and no one has such technologies because other companies have small drones, and this is a big drone. And we also needed to have a drone with gas engine, gasoline engine. So we will conclude the first commercial contract in September, and this contract will be concluded not with the Russian company, so it is also a kind of export. And what about urban development and urban construction? Yes, I will answer your question a little bit later. I would like to talk about one more direction we are developing now. It is related to blockchain technologies. And first of all, we are talking about tokenization of geological assets. And prime ministers of two countries, of Russia and Kazakhstan, signed an agreement to create a junior exchange. And so now we are talking about tokenization as of a financial blockchain. And we think that the creation of blockchain exchanges is a very interesting direction. We think that Russia can create such a product that is not well understood by other ones, and in geological sector we didn't have it earlier. And this system will allow to synchronize different aspects. And in the geological prospecting and exploration, what are the most important questions? It is the financing of preliminary or early stages. And if we are talking about cities, you know that we need to drill first of all before construction, and after all the calculations we can start the construction. If we have bad calculations, you can imagine the results. We have a concept of creating a marketplace which would allow to coordinate this activity on the territory of the Russian Federation, and also to add new technologies which will accelerate this process, because sometimes engineering works are carried out later than they needed, and we also need to process all this information and to make conclusions, to make correct conclusions. In this case, we do not have just one right decision. All the experts from the construction sector know it very well. We are supporting by the Ministry of Construction of Russia. We do not want to monopolize the sector, but we just want to create a marketplace which would allow to all the participants to take part in this process. It is very important for all the stages of construction and for all the types of construction. For urban construction, it is very, very important. Thank you very much, Sergey. I suggest we continue talking about blockchain technologies. Alexander, you are developing your own blockchain platform for 4 years now, and your protocol were the nucleus for BRICS calculations. How our platforms can help foreign companies, and how can we export the results of the intellectual work of our companies? Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the possibility to take part in this forum. I have prepared a short presentation to talk about what products, what digital products, and how we can export them. I would like to tell about it, and I will tell about blockchain too. I think that an ordinary businessman, entrepreneur in Russia does not understand what is the potential of such technologies. I think that digital export is the new oil for Russia. And you know, we will not export crude oil, but the intelligence of our developers. We will export our technological solutions. If you look at the schedule of any trends and transformations of any sector, you will see that all the trends are based on digitalization. So deep automation and reformation of all the processes in each industry. And if in the past we had plants and now we have data centers, we had shops, and now we have electronic marketplaces, we had transport logistics, and now we have electronic delivery services of food, for example, etc. We do not use cash, we use electronic money, and I think that if digital currency, digital national currency appears, it will be even easier for banks because we won't have NAT 60 or other indicators. So we had education in physical universities, now we have online education, and the digitalization is just the next step of automation. And we have robotization and artificial intelligence instead of work and capital by Marx. So that is what we do have, because Russian programmers are one of the strongest, or maybe the strongest in the world. So the solutions in each of these sectors require intellectual work. We can have a look at it from the point of view of economy. For example, earlier one plant could produce a certain number of pipes, but now we can develop a digital application and we can sell it for 1 billion times. So it is very important to understand for all the entrepreneurs, if we are talking about different services and jobs, our resources for manufacturing and for developing are limited, but possibilities to sell it are practically unlimited. If you have developed a system which is functioning in the Russian Federation or in Moscow, it will function in Kenya or in the United States and in other parts of the world too. If earlier we had quite a lot of expenditures to reform our production plants, now it is different. So you say that Moscow can be such an expert center for validation of such technologies. Yes, I hope that Moscow will listen to us and will follow this model. And what are the reasons of this digital export?
This may be a platform for infrastructure, this may be computed data, all digitalization, finding itineraries may work in Moscow and in any other Russian city or anywhere in the world. The platform that may be exported and may work according to service model, when Yandex may work in the Russian Federation and getting some money, certainly there will be a large algorithm, and this is the topic, what may be part of digital export. Some examples, United Arab Emirates, before the end of the year, they will shift all document turnover of the country into paper-free turnover. So they say this will economize $30 million only on paper. So this example will be followed practically by all countries. This transition will require tens and thousands of information systems, but nobody created them in the world. They are being created now. So our compatriots have ability to create them and export them, and Moscow Expert Center help them to export. So critical digital infrastructure, it is what we are doing now. We launched digital signature. This solution is applicable in any other country in the world. Any solution which you export, this is box-like solution. For example, digital passports of documents. So solution which is used to digitalize document and passport will be maybe sent to other country. For example, we have marking of any good. We may track how goods travel from farm to shop. So this is problem in a digital world. And without any link to geography, such digital platforms are easily tracked and exported and maybe used in any link, any chain of supply. I will miss some examples. For example, digital passports. For example, QR codes to visit restaurants. So information is aggregated from different sources of information. Medical, the diary, or has no different from any goods which has been reviewed in previous examples. So practically all processes will be converted into digital form. May we say that digitalization will lead to change of processes? It will have impact on our life. Certainly, we have right to visit. Will come to the end in 5 days because I have a fresh QR code received at Gosuslugi. This is temporary password. I did not make any effort to receive this temporary pass because in a center where you have given your analysis, they have a system sending this information into another platform, and I automatically receive a QR code. The next version of the application, some 2 days later, it will disappear, and after some time, I will have to pass another test or get another QR code. So digitalization will appear. Finally, will come to mobile internet applicable to pay travel. There will be all data about a citizen. There will be aggregated digital passport. Once Sergei Nikolaevich has spoken, mentioning a project in the United Arab Emirates, it is necessary to understand that digitalization of a resource, this is not a self-purpose. Self-purpose is a rearrangement of chains of supply to computation and settlement of payments when a ship from São Paulo, Brazil, is going to United Arab Emirates, sugar owner, when he reloads goods onto barge, on this moment when goods are put on board of barge, he will get digital passport of his sugar, and we earn a penny on every stage. He may sell this sugar at stock of United Arab Emirates, not waiting until the end of digital chain when the ship comes and it is unloaded. So all business changes. If seller sends goods, he will get full pay. All procedures expedite. The same is applicable to another resource which has been mentioned. We have a potential resource, how it may be financed. We have venture investors ready to bear risks, but now they do not have tool instruments how they may send their monies to this project. So city may help you somehow. No, city may help, but some elements of the structure are not sufficient. First of all, it is necessary to get the digital passport of a natural resource. So a person getting right to get a message about a resource, he needs to have the right being paid for it. This will be certain warranty. This is streaming, modern streaming of a resource coming from field. So when a resource is produced from land, he will have to produce his right and pays a certain amount of money. He will get oil or gold or anything else. Today there is no stock, for example, Eurasian stock, or in Emirates another one will appear, and in Moscow unfortunately there is no such stock which will have potential of a mechanism, or it may be compared to its turnover to London stock of metals having turnover of 13 trillion of pounds. So now we speak about potential, this is not potential. It is necessary to create regulatory ground, so such mechanisms need to appear. But basic notion, citizen of the Russian Federation being in Moscow may not easily get the right for natural resources, getting a right for natural resources not being produced yet. So it is necessary to create a stock exchange, and young engineers need to be involved. Easiest example, mobile application, for example. We have many digital painters creating every day very beautiful digital articles for computer games or pieces of digital art. And this digital art in modern world will be converted into self-sustaining goods when every copy is sold, or digital system for payment settlements. So digital artists will get an occasion, if he has a marketplace, sell his work all over the world, and he will become normal painter, which he was not able to be earlier. But traditional art, in fact, when every picture Russian museum is digitalized and 10 copies are sold through auction, the picture will be in the museum, but at the same time Russia will receive site through which and Russian art will be multiplied and sold all over the world, and then permanent money inflow due to sales of these pieces of art. It is difficult to perceive it, but digital world is coming. Is it possible that such assets have large potential? Certainly. So scope of sales is growing from day to day. This is for sure trend. Ilya will speak more about it, but myself, as an operator of digital platform is popular, sales are growing. As of today, potential roof is not yet available, so tens of billions hundreds of billions of dollars. Responding to your question, what we may ask from the city, which make in a qualitative way change situation with the Russian digital export, creation of certain digital bazaar, when any citizen, any company from any country of the world may buy and sell, conclude contracts, pay with digital money, pay taxes for digital assets, because not all regulatory basis is ready. It is necessary to create some digital economical zone, and these need to be allowed. So the state need to see that they have single window through which they may work. If you are in London, then through Moscow, as a single gate, enormous money will go to digital world and will get more and more digital monies. And this money need to go through Moscow or through any other Russian region. What Moscow has additional reserve? Why namely Moscow? Moscow may be like this point because in Moscow it has good support of small and middle-sized business, and being supported by this help, theoretically this is possible. This may be easily done rather than in some small regional towns. Thank you. And today we have Ilya, who is a representative of one of the industries of Russian economy, actively being presented at foreign markets. He sold more than Smishariki has been sold to more than 70 countries, to China, Latin America, US. Ilya, many thanks for content, and we admire your cartoons. For example, technology of blockchain. Do you plan to send your serials? You popularize technology for small and middle-sized business for children who will do this kind of business in future. Many thanks. I will not fully agree with Vasily, because my view is maybe specifically interesting to listen to it, how and why it develops. If we speak about our company and the thing we are doing, and the company is existing more than 20 years, creating digital products, creating personages, balloons, which are created using animation, and they are beloved by millions of children all over the world. And this is the very message which says that we do not create anything except digital persons. So digital heroes may be easily converted. They may pass boundaries of the world. For sure we plan and we are going towards this end very actively, and revolution which takes place in the world led to stocks, to assets, which becomes the most bright thing which toward which many companies are going. So everything related to so-called collectible things of our whole heroes, we plan to use blockchain through licensing of our product, going in the correct direction. And speaking about myself personally, we very actively, I shifted on to interesting direction for our activity, of animation, and in general with digital art, which exists quite long, and many authors who work in the company are included into this work. Artists, animators, drawers are involved into this work. They create all this in digital format. It was very difficult to form value of this product, the cost of which may be clear, understandable, regarding authenticity. And this is, in fact, this took place right now. Not everybody is ready to understand this completely. And for many companies in Russia, putting into action part of their market-creating projects, this will give them good occasion to sell their products, especially when we speak about digital resources. May you give some pieces of advice? What helped you? Or work is labor is required, but with no difficulties you would not be successful. Maybe you had difficulties at some other markets with delivery, for example. You know, from the very beginning, in principle, we have taken a decision that we will be involved in the project which we like ourselves, in which we trust for our children, and not trying to play with the notion, okay, we are doing something for children, and which need to be interesting to our children. Certainly we face some adaptation abroad with balls and balloons, and this is a unique Russian product, which initially, for the first time in modern Russia, if we look onto our story, we had the cartoon "Ну погоди." It was serial series, but it is not 2080 series, and it was a project which made something like a hooligan movement, and we continue experimenting with genres and auditorium, and it may be difficultly adapted abroad because everybody got used that if it is a project, it is oriented towards certain auditorium. At least while speaking to different projects, it became a unique, but it did not impede us in going abroad with our product. For example, the problem was very little in China because our project is most popular among Chinese viewers, and our distribution is very successful. And this is a good indicator of our success. And balloon was initially prepared to be used inside and outside. And after getting certain experience, the project was launched successfully both in Russia and abroad. Do you have any change? Do you have any other orientation? Is Russia still the main market for you? Russia, from point of view, a really good question. That the issue of the related to tendency, if we speak about not only about our company but all the world media market, certainly it was tracked quite clearly when you work for Americans or for Koreans. Now, in fact, many projects which were successful and launched and developed successfully, they launch as global. At the same time, they keep cultural identity, and in different countries, they really like it. For example, we have enormous number of successful projects being global, but at the same time, identity continues staying. even from point of view of commercial, it is attractive and profit-making to keep identity, and it is even stressed once we thought to make projects being made here and now. We continue working and promoting our projects ahead. Ilya, thank you. As I understand, for Russian companies, if from point of view of identity, potential is quite large, and growth of our deliveries abroad is quite significant. My question to Vasily: we have quite large scope of measures taken by the government and the state, including latest decrees of the government to support export initiatives. What measures of support is adoptable and affordable to Russian companies? Thanks enormous for your question. I will change the context because, as distinct from my colleagues, we have only 2 years of development on 15th of July, and during these 2 years we are already in the so-called third form, and reform has been titled Reform of Institutes of Development, together with Skolkovo and ex-Russian Expert Center. We shifted to be under auspice of VTB Bank, which plays a role of support and stimulating of IT. We all, during these 2 years, we had one singular product, grant. We were developers and enterprises who want to implement our solution. And it is necessary to say that important indicator, being a guest at Moscow forum, we wanted to implement our project. It is supported with grants, and according to my view, approximately 24 projects coming from Moscow and only 11 from Skolkovo residents or others located in other clusters or registered in Moscow. Expert, this is an important topic for us, topic for future, and now in the framework of the reform mentioned, so-called share company Rosinvest has been liquidated to stimulate export component in large country and to increase export delivery inside the country. We had the products similar done by everybody, stimulating the export, and we are now in the process of developing these measures of support, which being oriented by common sense thinking how it works. We try to find narrowly oriented measures which will support export, together with the Profile Association, Valentin Makarov, and Lashin and RFP, and everybody who hear us and see us. We invite you to take part in developing of this position. What I may say for sure, this is Ministry of Digital Development and Trade Ministry agreed that in Russia service and people will appear which will be called digital attaché. They are people who will work with promotion, and we have pilot projects and we will try to move towards this direction. So colleagues from Skolkovo have good experience and ideas which may be successfully implemented. So now we're in a good place, and export of IT is very important for the country, and we have only 2% of the market, but IT allows us to sell much more than 2%. So psychological moment is also being a developing company, and we see future, and we invite everybody in development of such measures. Maybe you may say what Russian technologies currently have large export potential, which which didn't come yet to this market.
I'd better talk about success stories of Russian companies, and I think that you need to follow their example. Even the president knows Kaspersky. I think that it's really a very well-known Russian IT label. There's also the IB company. Ilya Sachkov is selling their solutions and their software on foreign marketplaces with a lot of success. My colleagues also said to me that one of our winners, company My Office, you can have different approaches towards this company because it is something similar to a Russian cloud package. They got a sellout to Burundi for 230 million rubles. So is this the first similar contract? I do not know, I'm not sure. But in Russia there are a lot of game-related services related to games, video games, and the Russian developers are dealing with huge volumes of games sold all over the world, Google games, etc. And these are the same developers as the developers which are dealing with other types of software. And there are other companies which are not so well known. They are our winners, and we will talk about them for them to become a role model for young people and even for the companies which have been functioning on the market for a long time. Evgeny Kuznetsov is also with us in a remote way. Can you hear us, Evgeny? And can you hear me? Yes. Well, we have talked about the developments we have and the potential Russian companies have. But could you name the technologies which today are out of reach, but in which Russia has a lot of potential? And what global problems could be solved thanks to our potential? Thank you very much for your question. I would like to talk about the place of Russia in a modern global economy, because I'm more used to talk not about the paradigm of import and export, but about the global character of Russian businesses and about the possibility to act in a global way, being located in Russia or in Moscow, for example. And here we have our advantages and disadvantages, our strong points. For example, we thought that we have a very strong mathematical program in school, but quite weak competences related to business management. But some time ago, we have seen that Russian business management competences, and I'm talking now about Russian delivery services, for example, this is what is very valuable. And now London, Japan, and other cities and companies copy the experience of our delivery services. And there are even more companies which are planning to create such delivery services. And we see that our Russian experience in this sector is one of the best one in the world, as well as our Russian model of financial payments and the organization of financial transactions in the city. The system is very modern, and all the tourists would say that maybe only China has a more modern system of financial transactions. But in other countries, even developed countries, they have such systems as we had 3 years ago. So we have business competences and technological competences, and they can be global. As my colleagues have said today, Alexander and other colleagues, they were talking about what we are doing on the global level. Where do we have a lot of potential in Russia? Well, of course, we need to use the competences of our mathematical school and the School of Artificial Intelligence. I think that we are among top 3 or top 5 of developers and markets for artificial intelligence. We are looking at this market in a very active manner, and for example, Botkin Eye, if we look at verified tests, we see that this company is among top 3 companies, or even at the same level as Google, who is the leader in this sector. I'm talking about detection of complex medical cases. So we see that this company has a lot of potential on the global market, and they are now signing global contracts and starting to work on global partnerships. There is another company, Budget. It is developing software for robots, and it is more interesting in the economical way. And these are unique developments because there are no analogs in the world of this quality and of this price. So Russian developments are among the top ones. We may say the same thing about the potential in entering new markets. For example, the market of the energy transition. It is evident that Russia needs to take its important place in this market because we need to compensate the decrease in the oil sector, because if we do not compensate such losses, we will have a lot of problems. And we need to enter the market of new energy vectors and new energy models. We now try to enter the market of hydrocarbons, but this market is not solid now. There are a lot of other topical questions related to deliveries of materials and fabrication of accumulators and batteries. Russia has quite a lot of potential in this domain, and also the potential in this sphere of geology. But sometimes we lack competences, and we do not have solutions in some spheres. So that's why we need to cover this gap. There is one more topic which may seem a little bit paradoxical for Russia. We need to move from fines for emissions to quota markets, quota sales. So, and we need to think about the possibility to export the carbon quotes, and we need to think about this market of CO2 emissions, because this industry will be comparable in the nearest future with the oil sector. And here we have quite a lot of potential. And from the point of view of this potential, how can we develop it, and what can a city do to support these developments? What types of support measures are you waiting for? Do we need new developers? Do we need new approaches? Do we want the regulator to do something? Well, we need to think about the whole range of different measures. We have said today that city is very important and useful for technological enterprises as a pilot site for introduction of their solutions and as a pilot site for the implementation of their solutions, because it is practically impossible to enter the market if you do not have some practical, real installations. So that's why sometimes Russian companies, even if they have quite a lot of potential, afterwards they lag behind Western companies. So it is quite easy to do such tests on the basis of Moscow, for example. And when we talk with my colleagues from the sector of electrical transport or drones, we saw this problem in Moscow, and Moscow government was ready to legalize drones, but the federal government was not ready to do this. Drone transportation of people, of passengers, drone deliveries. To make these things possible, we need to start the process of legalization, and we can say the same for all other disruptive markets. So I think that we have two key competences which are needed for Moscow. First point is a so-called Institute of Long-Term Forecast and Planning. I'm not talking about the legal structure, but I'm just talking about the fact that we need to have a long-term plans of urban development for us to understand that, for example, in 10 years, Moscow should be in top 3 or in top 5 among the cities with drone logistics and drone transportation. Once we formulate such goals, we will be able to implement them, because now we are feeling this pressure of the market, and we are trying to develop something, but it is not the ideal scenario. And the second point, we need to increase the volumes of the venture market, because we lack money for the early development of different projects. Our gap in comparison to the US and China markets are 30 to 50 times, so it is a huge gap. And we need to talk about the system of capitalization of existing venture funds, and Russian investors should have more confidence in the Russian market, because now Russian investors are investing in technologies and funds in the US, in Israel, in other countries, and they are more active there than in Russia. And second thing, we need to increase the volume of budgetary investments in venture capital funds. So we need to go through public companies, through budgets of big cities, and that's how we can influence on innovations. We can talk about the example of a Chinese cluster. I will omit the name of this cluster because it is too difficult, but the economy of this cluster is comparable to a big European city at least. And this Beijing technological cluster had a whole range of venture capital funds in Silicon Valley to support Chinese technologies in China and also to export Chinese technologies to the global market. And so it is very important to achieve such levels of globalization. Thank you very much, Evgeny, for your comment. We can say that Russian IT market has a lot of potential, because all the speakers have said this, and we are already implementing this potential. Moscow contributes a lot to this potential. We have said that the share of Moscow is very important, and we can highlight the measures which are implemented by Moscow as a region. All the Russian companies which are now exporters and successful exporters, they have the access to different services on the website mos.ru. Enterprises could ask for financial support in the framework of their existing projects. There are several non-financial support measures and consultations, for example, and other types of measures when at marketplaces and in the framework of expert missions our enterprises can get the support they need. So Moscow has a lot of different actions and measures to support export and enterprises in general. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for our session, and I would like to wish a lot of success to all of you, because this topic of development of the export sector is quite difficult. Thank you very much.